is we will be discussing about 5 questions. Okay, and we'll try to dissect it. We'll try to do an X-ray of those questions, trying to understand what could be the exam taker's mindset. Why are they asking such questions? What would be a variation in such questions? And if you see any concept, then we will discuss those concepts as well. Okay, the whole idea is to keep revising the mindset, the concepts which are important for the exam. Okay, so that you are continuously reminded about those mindset. Okay, and it helps. Okay, when you are studying on your own, uh, it is difficult to take out some time, right? In terms of priority, personal commitment, professional commitment. So you might find it a little bit difficult. And when you study, you might not be able to look at a bigger picture, like as an overview. So these 5 random questions would help you in understanding and revising at an overall level. Okay, all those important things which are required. What I'll do is I'll run this every weekend. Okay, and we'll try to see some new questions. We'll try to see some new concepts. We'll try to cover all the tasks that are there in ACO. Okay, so every question would take maybe approximately 1 minute or 70 seconds for you to answer it, and then around 5 minutes for us to discuss. Okay, if you have more questions around it, if you are thinking about some other variations of those questions, please feel free to discuss, because it is not going to be just me speaking. Let us interact and get your doubts clarified. Okay, you all are already solving questions. Okay, so you all already know what are the different types of questions you would see, what are the different variations you might see in the question, right? So try to think about that, try to get into the exam maker's head on what they are thinking when they are creating a question. Okay, it will be very, very helpful if you do that, right? So without much wasting of time, let us start with our first question. Again, I mean, just like we have done it in our sessions, there would be a question on your screen. Put the answer in the chat box. As soon as I receive 50% of the response, I will start discussing it. If you are someone who is still attempting, please do attempt. Okay, and see whether you are right or not. What is more important is to understand the discussion that we will have, right? How does the language change? How does the scope of the question shifts suddenly? What is the subtle difference? What are those important points that we need to focus on when we are answering the questions? Okay, when we do the training, we are focused on PMP and how to manage projects better. Here we are focusing completely on PMP exam. Okay, how to write the exam better. Okay, so we are going through a, you can say, a manager's mindset, right? We are not looking at long-term vision of what can we achieve through this PMP exam. But for these revision sessions, we are very focused on PMP exam. Okay, so we'll discuss only on those things, right? Let us start with the first question. You can put the answer in the chat box and then we will discuss. All right, so now let's discuss this. Okay, you will and you may see some questions which is from the daily question that we are sharing. Okay, there could be some variation. Okay, just to ensure that you are not remembering the option that you are answering it. So there will be some variation also, and there will be some question that you have already seen, which was doubtful, which somebody asked me a question about, and I wanted to clarify those things. Right. So let us see. How do we answer the question? After solving a problem that was blocking the work for Agile team, they noticed that The solution has caused another problem in one of the product's features. The project sponsor wants to know what actions the project manager will take. Okay, so whenever we solve the question, first we understand the scenario well. Okay, so the scenario is the team solved a problem, but then the solution has caused another problem. Right? So we wanted to solve something, we made some changes, and because we made some changes, some other problem also arose. So the sponsor is asking, what actions will you take to the project manager? So how should the project manager respond? Work with the team to update definition of done. Will this help? Okay, let's say for example, we are solving a problem and we have a definition of done checklist. Right? What would the definition of done checklist say? What is required to be done? Right? If we can create a checklist every time we solve a problem, we would know exactly what all things are to be checked. Chances will improve that it will not cause another problem. Okay, so it's a good choice. See, there's no guarantee, right? Whatever solutions we decide, whatever checklist, process improvements, whatever suggestions, whatever planning we do, there's no guarantee that it will solve the problem or it will not let the problem happen again. There's no guarantee, but it improves the chances. That's what we have to look at. Out of the four options, which is the best choice, which would help us the most, right? So first one is helping us, but we don't know whether it is the best choice or not. Then we go to B. Inform the sponsor that mistakes are inevitable and will be resolved by the team. That is correct. Mistakes are inevitable and it will be resolved by the team. But is it the best choice of how we should respond to the sponsor? Right? Probably not. Right? We cannot throw some random facts at sponsor when the problem has happened. Okay, so we cannot see when the problem is there. We cannot say, okay, problems are always there. We will handle it. The team will handle it. How would you build that confidence in sponsors' eyes? Right? They would think that this person does not know how to solve the problem. Right? So not a good choice. We have to respond with timelines. We have to respond with some action plan. We have to respond with some strategy. And we cannot just throw away random facts at the sponsor whenever we are facing a problem. Right? So not a good choice at all. Call an impromptu retrospective to inform the team not to take risky initiatives. Okay, generally in the options you will see two parts. Okay, one part would be something that you are doing. Other would be the intention, why you are doing it. Right? So you are calling an impromptu retrospective. This could help. Right? You are calling people for meeting, having a retrospective on whatever we have done so far, and discussing on how we can improve the problem. This could help. But to inform the team not to take risky initiative is very general. Okay, again, similar to the option B, the problems will be resolved. Okay, don't take any risky initiatives. How would the team know what is the risky initiative? Right? We have to discuss. We have to understand till what level we can take the risk, till what level we cannot take the risk. Right? So we have to discuss on all those parts rather than just saying that, okay, don't take any risky initiatives from now on. Team will never work in terms of innovation. Team will never work in terms of making something work better. Right? So not a good choice. Again. Then we go to D. Work with the team to update the definition of ready. Okay. See, the problem here is with finishing something. Right? Something which was finished, the problem which was solved, an activity which was done was not done properly, probably. That's why we had another problem arising at it. Problem is not with starting something. Definition of ready is a checklist which helps us in starting something, ensuring that when we are starting a particular user stories or a particular activity or a particular task, we know that we have all the information that we need to start. Right? So the problem is with finishing something, not with starting, and hence definition of ready is also not a good choice. A is the best one. Is it clear, everyone? Any doubts, anyone?
Amit, I have one doubt on option C.
Yes.
Amit, I agree with the answer A, but when they say that retrospective, right, they call, but usually the retrospective comes at the end of the iterations, right? So just to make sure that, right, what the better can be done or something on that one.
Absolutely.
So we call that in between as well?
Yes, and that's a great question, Avinash. Yes, it does happen. Okay, you can call a retrospective in between also. See, the idea here is that typically we will have retrospective at the end of the iteration. Okay, at the end of iteration, we'll have review, and then we will meet on how we can improve in the next iteration. Typically, it is done for that. But you can call an ad hoc retrospective also if the team and the project manager feels the need of it. Okay, I'll tell you an example. Let's say your iteration week is 4 week. Okay, iteration duration is 4 weeks.
Okay.
If your iteration duration is of 4 weeks, and you have, let's say, for example, 9 members in an agile team, then within these 4 weeks, they are doing a lot of work, right? And you start in, let's say, for example, January 1st, and you will end on January 28th or 30th. Right? It will be very difficult to remember what all things we have learned in these last 4 weeks. So the team can decide in the beginning itself that even though our iteration duration is of 4 weeks, we will meet every 2 weeks for a retrospective. That the team can decide. Second is when you are doing a lot of work, let's say, for example, you did a very complex user story, even if your duration is 2 weeks. Now, this is the second scenario, right? Your iteration duration of 2 weeks, you did a lot of work, a very complex user story. And there are so many things to learn from it. Okay, so there's nothing to stop you from calling a retrospective to discuss that particular user story, whatever the lesson that we have learned, so that we can have a quick discussion and we can start working within that iteration also. Right? So to answer your question, yes, it is possible, and we should do it if the team and the project manager feels the need of it. There's nothing wrong in calling a retrospective in between as
well. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Because the ultimate aim is to look back at whatever we have done and learn from it, right? So it is also a way of quick feedback. So we can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Amit.
Great question. Thanks a lot, Avinash. Yes. Anyone else? Anything else that you think that you should be discussing from this question? Okay. So one option is how do we attempt it? How do we think? How do we compare and other things? After you have done that, okay, whenever you take mini mock exams, whenever you take full length mock exams, and when you are reviewing it, okay, you will take 4 hours to take the exam, and you should take 12 hours to review those exams, because that is what is important. Right? So whenever you are reviewing the question, try to find out all those terms which you are not clear with. Definition of done, definition of ready, maybe retrospective. Right? If you don't know what these things are, please do check once. Okay, quick Google, quick Chat GPT, it helps a lot. Right? What we are going to do in our session is I'll check out all those important things and I'll discuss with you. Okay, so definition of ready and definition of done. Right? What is definition of ready? Definition of ready is a checklist which would help all the team members know that whatever user stories that are being picked into iteration backlog are ready for development, which means we have everything that we need in terms of information so that when we start the work, we don't get stuck. Now, that does not mean that you will have all information on how do you develop it. That does not mean that you will have all information in how do you solve the problem. You will not have complete detail. You will still have to start. But at least the bare minimum things must be there. For example, is the story clear? See, if the story is not clear, how will you work? Is it measurable? Would you be able to measure your progress? Will you be able to understand that, yes, this user story is done? Is it testable? At the end of the user story, will you be able to test it? Right? Has it been estimated? So do you know how many story points are there? Is the business value estimated by the product owner? Right? Do you know what is the value of it? Right? So when you have all these checklists checked, if you say yes to all these things, then you can say that that user story is ready. And you will check all these points for every single user story before development, so that there is an absolute clarity. It doesn't matter who is doing it. It doesn't matter who is going to develop it. They will all have at least these bare minimum information available, which will not hinder the progress while they are working. It should not happen that they have started and they don't know what the story point is. If they have started, they're not clear on the user story. Right? Whoever is starting from the team. So the team will create a checklist on their own. And they would say that before starting any activity by anyone, every user story should meet all these points. Only then we will start the development of it. So only when the user story meets all these points can we say that the user story is ready to be developed. Right? And the difference from definition of done is Definition of done means, is the user story complete in all its sense? So the team will create another checklist which would tell every single team member whether the job that they have completed is complete in all sense or not. Is there something that they're missing? So whatever is important for the team, for the product owner, for the business, whatever things are important when we are completing a particular user story, right, must be all checked. Only then can the team members say that, yes, my work is complete. For example, is the code review done by the person who is writing the code or person who is testing it? Is the peer-to-peer review done? Have you shown your code to somebody else? Have they reviewed it? Right? Is the testing complete? Is the integration done? Is the code cleaning done? So whatever is important for you, right? You would note those things down. So whatever is important for the team would note all those points down and create a checklist. Only when there is a yes for all these particular points can the user story be said to be done. Right? So definition of ready tells us that the user story is ready for development. Definition of done tells us that the user story is now done, it is complete, team can pick up another user story. Right? That's why we use definition of ready and definition of done. Why are these things so important in Agile? Because you might be working on something which is absolutely new. Right? The team will have no idea of what all information do we need. So in the beginning itself, if you can create the checklist, right, it is always better to help your team members even do unknown things, new features, innovative features. They can handle all those things if the definition of done ready and definition of done is implemented in the project. Right? So the last question was that the problem is complete, the solution was provided, but another solution came into picture. Right? So probably they had not done the integration well. And that's when the feature was complete, the problem was solved, and it was added to something else, it created a problem. It would have been resolved through definition of done. Right? That was about question number 1. Let us move to question number 2. Again, put the answer in the chat box. When we receive 50% response, then we'll start. All right, so let's discuss this. A team member has performed exceptionally well in the assigned design work in an earlier project, and as a result has been assigned additional responsibilities in a new project to detail the requirements for product development. Right? So there was a team member who performed exceptionally well in some work. So they were given additional responsibilities in a new project, which is something else, requirements of product development. Right? After some time, the project manager notices that the team member's output in the new role has dropped significantly. Okay, so they were probably promoted or they were given additional responsibilities. You can say probably they were punished or they were promoted, you don't know, but they were given additional responsibility. Right? Sometimes people feel like it is a punishment that they were given additional responsibilities, which is not generally. Okay, but that was general case. Coming back to PMP. Okay, what has happened? There was a team member who was performing exceptionally well. Right? Now they have been given additional responsibilities, but their output has dropped significantly. So how should the project manager support to improve the team members' productivity? Right? It is very important that we understand the question well. Sometimes they will ask us to suggest what would be the next step. Sometimes they will ask us how do you solve the problem. Sometimes they will say how would the project manager prevent the problem from happening. And sometimes they would say how should the project manager support to improve team members' productivity, which means sometimes they will say ask you about something specific. Okay, so we have to answer the question. Okay, when you do a lot of questions, you start forming questions in your mind that you should not do. Okay, you should take a pause of 1 second, read this question well, and understand what the question is asking. And when you select the option, go back and check, is it answering your question or not? Right? Assign a senior member to coach the team member. Will this help? Probably. Right? There's a person who has done well in design work. Now they are required to do the requirements work. Probably it is something new that they are working on. Okay, and maybe assigning a senior member could support in improving the team members' productivity. Okay, so this is one thing that is helping us, right? But as we know that we have to find the best choices. So this might or might not be the best choice. We'll come to know only when we compare. So B, plan for less story points for the member in the upcoming iterations. Okay, this will in fact decrease the productivity. In the same iteration, they will be doing less work. So if they are doing less work, right, their productivity has gone down. C, hire a new team member to compensate for the loss of output. Now, this is a decision that you will take only when it is justified. Okay, first thing. Second, it might help you or your team or your project. It might help the project, but not the team member. Right? The question is about team members' productivity. Right? They're not asking about how to improve the team's productivity, or they're not asking how to improve the team's output. Okay, if you add a new member, you may improve the team's output. Whatever they are delivering, they'll deliver more. But how does it help in the team members' productivity? Right? It does not answer the question. So we remove this. Boost team members' motivation with a team building event. As I said, there would be two parts to many of the options. One would be the intention, why we are doing it, and one would be what are we doing. Right? Intention is good. Boost the team members' motivation. Right? Probably if they're motivated, the productivity will improve. Right? But with a team building event, why? Why would you want to involve the whole team when you want to just improve a team member's productivity? Not a good choice by a project manager. Right? It will be costlier and it will result in delay of the project as well without much impact on the team. So you are solving a problem that was not there. Right? It was not about the team's productivity. It was about the team members' productivity. So if you want to improve the team members' productivity, work with the team member. Why do you want to involve the whole team into? Right? That's why A is better than D. Intention is fine. What we are doing to meet that intention is wrong. So the practice is wrong, intention is fine. You will see both the parts in many of the options, intentions and practice. Both the things should be correct. Right? In previous question, we saw that the practice was correct, but intention was wrong. Here the intention is correct, but the practice is wrong. Right? And one important thing that you should start spotting, okay, is the shift in the scope of the question. Okay, so while answering the question, do you notice the shift in the scope of the question stem and options? Okay, what do you mean by this? Shift in the scope of question. See, question is completely talking about team members throughout. Right? So scope of the question is limited to the team member. Right? The options, if you see, right, start talking about the whole team. Right? Not in B. But if you look at C, hire a new team member to compensate for the loss of output. You're thinking about the team, right? So you have to focus on the team member and you are focusing on the entire team for both option C and option D. This is called shift in scope of the question, right? Which you have to spot. It will help you in resolving the draw whenever you are confused between two options. Probably you are not confused here. Probably you might get confused next time, right? But this is how you resolve the draw. See what the problem is, understand the problem well so that you can solve it well. right? A is better than B, C, and D. Is it clear, everyone? Any questions?
No, good, Amit. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So this is a part of leadership, right? In the project management, leading a team task, and we learned about situational leadership. Okay. So there's a model called Ken Blanchard situation leadership model, where we put commitment on the y-axis, competency on the x-axis, and we say towards origin, commitment and competencies are low. To outside, out of the origin or away from the origin, commitment is high and competency is high. What we say is, as the competence and commitment increases, our leadership should change. Our leadership style should change, right? So this is called situational leadership. And we discussed that if the commitment and competency is low, we need to direct our team member. We need to tell them what is required to be done. Then as the competency and commitment increases, from directing we move to coaching, from coaching we move to supporting, and from supporting we move to delegating. Right? This is what is situational leadership. As the situation changes, as people become more and more competent and more committed towards the project, you change your leadership style. In the beginning, you will have to tell them what is to be done. Then all you need to do is tell them what are the options available. They will decide what is to be done, how it is to be done. After that, you only need to support. They will find out what is to be done. They will figure out how it is to be done. They'll figure out everything. Okay, but they will get stuck sometimes. You will have to support them. And after some time, all you need to do is just delegate it to them and they will take care of everything. Right? In the previous question, probably the team member who was given additional responsibilities needed that coaching. Right? They had just shifted from one type of responsibility to another type of responsibility. They're pretty new in that. Okay, so if there was an option to direct them, that could also have been correct. If there was a direct question to coach them, that would also have been correct. But what we saw in the question was that the correct option said assign a senior member to coach the team member. Right? So probably they knew how to do the work, but the productivity went down. So there would be somebody who would coach them. Right? This is how we use all those models that we have studied for. Okay, you don't have to remember the steps. Okay, but you can apply it if you understand it well. Right? That's why we focus on understanding the models. Why are we studying it and the application of model rather than saying that at the first step it is directing, then coaching, then supporting, then delegating. It will be very difficult to apply it in the question. Okay, but if you understand the application of these models, it will be easier for you to eliminate the choices. Okay. All right, so there's something on the chat box. As the team member has been given additional work, why will reducing the story points for that member won't work? See, they have been given additional responsibilities in a new project. Okay, it does not mean that they have been given extra work in the same project. That is one thing. Second, if you have given them some work, okay, first identify that they have extra work. So if your analysis says that the team member has been given more work than they can complete, only then you reduce it. Otherwise, what would happen? You have reduced their work, they are doing less work. Now, some other team member, so productivity went down, you have reduced their work. How many team members will you reduce the work? Right? Just because the productivity is going down, if you start reducing everybody's work, who will work in the project? Right? Everybody will do less work and ultimately your project will suffer. That is why we don't do it. Is it clear, Vedant?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So now let's move to the next question. Again, put the answer in the chat box, then we'll discuss. All right, so let's discuss this. One of the key stakeholders in an agile project has complained that the committed dates of completion of user stories by the team has been fluctuating significantly over the last few iterations. Which of the following action will help in forecasting more accurately in future iterations? Okay, as per our process, we will take a pause to understand the question. The question is, which of the following actions will help in forecasting more accurately? So whatever I choose, it should help me in forecasting more accurately. And if there are two options which are helping me in forecasting more accurately, I will choose the better one. Okay, so let's see. What is happening, by the way, in the situation? One of the key stakeholders has complained that your committed date is fluctuating a lot. So the team wants to forecast now more accurately so that it does not fluctuate a lot. Okay, let's see. Elaborate the upcoming features in more detail. If you elaborate the upcoming features in more detail, you will have more understanding about the feature. Right? If you have more understanding about the feature, you will be able to forecast a little bit better. The more we understand, the better we forecast. Right? We understand better in project management, in traditional approach. That's why we forecast in the beginning itself how the project will get completed. We don't have that leisure or luxury in agile. That's why we forecast only for a week or 2 weeks. Right? So the more clarity we have, we will be able to forecast more accurately. So this is a good choice. Then we go to B. Educate the stakeholders that time is variable in an agile project. That is right. But still, if we are committing to something, and if we are saying that these user stories will be completed, then we should complete it, even if the time is variable for the entire project. But as such, time for iteration is fixed, time for release is fixed. So we don't say that time is variable. It will not be a good response, right? And anyways, it is not answering the question. The question is, how will you forecast more accurately? And what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to educate the stakeholders. Okay? So on multiple fronts, this question is not correct. Then you go to C. Take up less story points in upcoming iterations than previous 3 iterations. Again, the same problem of the last question. Is it going to help us? Is it possible that by executing less number of work, we will be able to forecast more accurately? Is it possible that by executing less amount of work, we will be able to do planning better? No, right? To do planning better, you need to understand the work better. To do planning better, you need to analyze the work better. Doing a better execution does not help us in forecasting better. Okay, or doing less work does not help us in forecasting better. So not a good choice. Reduce the frequency of discussion with the stakeholders. Okay, so stakeholder is complaining, just don't discuss with them. Not a good choice at all. Okay, so none of the other options are is helping in improving the forecasting. Okay, so we can eliminate those and A becomes the best choice. Is it clear, everyone?
Amit,
Yes.
I have a doubt here.
Yes, please.
So, the reason why I chosen C was in the Jira, if we look upon that sprint commitment ratio, so I guess everybody would be aware about that here in the group. So where it would be showing the number of story points which are actually being completed in the previous sprints and what exactly would be the commitment ratio. On the basis of that, we can plan for upcoming sprints. Right?
Yeah, we can plan based on the last few iterations. Okay, it is a good guide for us, but why would you want to take less story points from what is being suggested?
No, it automatically suggested on the basis of the average number of story points completed in the previous sprints. So
Yeah, that's what Jira does. But why would you take up less story points? Is the question. You
because there is
understood what I'm trying
already a
to say?
delta deviation. Because there is already a delta deviation in the previous, you can say, user stories which have been completed due to which dates are commitment dates have not met, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is what the thought process I had. I mean,
Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand. Okay, I'm not trying to cross question you. I'm just trying to understand the thought process.
the reason here is I couldn't able to get a valid justification of elaborating the features, because if the option C won't be there, I would definitely go with an option A. But looking into the option C, by looking into the number of story points which we already completed, can't we, you can say, streamline or make an alignment to them which were already completed? See, the thing is, if I am planning 100 story points for each user for each sprint, and somehow my team could able to do the justification of 80 story points, which is an average of last 3 sprints, let's say. Now, why I would go for again 100 story point in an upcoming sprint is what my question was.
We don't have to. We don't have to. Okay, we don't have to go to 100. If the team is completing 80, then we should take 80. Okay, but my question is, why would I take less story points? Okay, and you are saying that because it was fluctuating. Whatever we were doing, we were not able to complete. Right. But what we have to also understand is that we have to answer the question. Okay, that is one part of the problem, that yes, the estimate was fluctuating, we were not able to complete, so let us take less work. But will that help? And how is it going to help you answer the question is also something that we have to think about, right? Now, if you say that, okay, let us take up less story points in upcoming iterations than previous 3 iterations. So what would happen? Every 3 iterations that you complete, after that, when you estimate, you will take less story points. So you started with 80, right? You completed 80, then you did 70. Then you completed 70, then you did 60. Then you completed 60, then you took 50. Right? So this is not a good process to start. That, okay, whatever we will achieve in the 3 iteration, in the next iteration, we will reduce our story. Right? Look at the question. Which of the following action will help in forecasting more accurately in future iterations? They are not focusing on this iteration only. That we can look at previous 3 and we'll say that, okay, we were not able to complete, let us take less. Okay. If you do that, then you're doing it for all the 3 iterations throughout the project, and ultimately it will impact your project. Does that answer the question?
Okay, I'll take it up with you separately.
Okay,
Maybe
I'll give you one simple statement. Okay, the question is not asking about this iteration. Question is asking about all the future iterations. Okay, and if you take up less story point for all upcoming iterations than previous 3 iterations, you're not doing a good job. We can discuss later. Not a problem.
Okay, sure, Amit. That's fine.
All right. Everyone else is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Again, put the answer in the chat box, then we'll discuss. All right, let's discuss this. An agile team is being supported by a supplier with a particular expertise in new technology, in which the supplier has a monopoly. Both the teams are facing a lot of problems related to communication and availability of team members for meetings. Right? The project manager needs to work on improving the interactions between the teams. Which of the following actions by the project manager would help the best? Okay, so you have an agile team that is being supported by a supplier. Okay, so you have a supplier team. What's happening? Both the teams are facing a lot of problems related to communication and availability of team members for meetings. There are 2 problems, right? Communication and availability. The project manager needs to work on improving the interaction between the teams. So what would help the best? That's the question. Okay, let us go through that one by one. Share a common Kanban board using the latest software tool. Kanban board would help us in understanding the flow of work. Okay, it may indirectly help us in communication, but it is not directly related to that. Right. So not sure about this question, so I'll just park it. Okay, so if I'm dead sure that it is incorrect, I will eliminate it. Otherwise, I'll just park it. Maybe I'll compare when I see other options. Okay. B, set up a fishbowl window at both the team's locations. Right? This could work. Right? There is an agile team, there is a supplier. Okay, there are two teams, and if I put a fishbowl window at both the teams' locations, it would help. So it looks like a good choice. Definitely better than the Kanban board, because Kanban board is focused on understanding the flow of work. Does not help a lot. It does help, but it does not help a lot directly in terms of improving communication. So I can now eliminate A. Then I go to C. Ask both the team members to meet face to face once every week. Okay, so I'm saying that, okay, agile team and the supplier team, both of you come together at a particular location and meet face to face once a week. Okay, now, would fishbowl window help or should this help? Now that's the question. We'll park it. We'll see D. Maybe D is better than both B and C. Our time will be saved before comparing B and C. Okay, or if D is bad, I will eliminate it. Again, my time will save. So it is better that we see D and then we see whether we have to compare between B and C or not. So we go to D. Match the duration of both the team's iterations. So agile team will also complete in 2 weeks. Supplier will also complete in 2 weeks. Okay, there's no direct relation on how it will help in communication. Right? It would align their work. They will both be able to complete the iteration at the same point of time, probably if they start together. But it does not help us in communication. So D is also not a good choice. So now we have two choices to make. Either we set up a fishbowl window at both the team's locations, or we ask the team members to meet face to face once every week. We should always try to make the team members who are working together meet more often. Right? As much as possible. They should work daily together. Right? One of the principles also says that the team should work with business people daily. Right? Even if this is not a business people, even if the team members are there, right? They both are supporting one another. The more often that they meet, the more they can discuss, the more they can collaborate, the better it will be. And it will help in communication as well as the availability of team members can be managed. So probably it is happening that they are calling for meetings and team members are not available. If you can set up a fishbowl window, that problem will also be resolved. But for that, we should understand what a fishbowl window is. Right? Fishbowl window is a setup where if you have two teams, okay, a particular team A in location 1, a particular team B in location 2, they are supported by a monitor, okay, on both the end, along with a camera. So this camera will be always on, will capture the entire team. This camera will always be on, capture the entire team, and display it on the other monitor. Right? So if you set up this work, what happens is whenever the agile team is want to discuss with the supplier or supplier wants to discuss with the agile team, they can do it quickly. So you are giving an option to discuss in real time. They both are team members, both are working towards the same project. It could be helpful. Okay? Rather than saying that, okay, meet face to face, but only once every week. Right? And hence, B is a better choice because it gives more opportunity for the team members to discuss. Okay, why do we choose face to face? Because we want to have richer communication. Rather than video conferencing, face to face will always be better. But if my option is saying face to face, but it is saying only once a week, then it's not a good choice. Okay, a video conferencing regularly throughout every day, Monday to Friday, is much better than face to face only once a week. Right? So both the things are very, very important to capture. So it is not a rule, it is not a formula that every time you see a face to face, it must be correct. Okay, we have to also see what are we doing with that face to face. We are meeting only once a week. Okay, it will not help. B is better in terms of improving the interactions between the team. Are you all clear?
Amit, 1 second. Again, one quick question here. Let's
Yeah,
say in
please.
the option C, if we do not have once in a week, then would it be the best choice than a fishbowl window?
If it is possible, yes, face to face will be much better than fishbowl because fishbowl is like setting up video conferencing. Face-to-face is like discussing in person. So in-person discussion is always better than video conference.
Okay, thanks. Got it.
So very quickly, what are fishbowl window and the Kanban board that we discussed? Right? In this question, you see Kanban board here, you see fishbowl window here. Right? So fishbowl window is this, as you can see. Right? Although it looks like the meeting is happening, but the idea is that there would be a monitor. I mean, yes, there would be a camera. Okay, here is the camera. This camera would capture this team. This team is anyways being captured on the monitor. Whenever the team is working, whenever they want to discuss, they can just press a button on the table and they can start talking to that person. So it is like replicating a in-person environment, even when the team members are remote. Right? That is what is called fishbowl window, a good agile team for virtual teams. Well, a good agile tool for virtual teams. Kanban board is a flow of work. Right? It will help us in understanding the flow of work. When did A move from backlog to do, then to do to doing, then doing to done. Right? So it will help us in understanding the flow. It will help us in understanding if we have any bottleneck in any of the tasks. Okay? But if you want to attack the communication, fishbowl window is better. Right? Last question of the day. Again, put the answer in the chat box, then we'll discuss. All right, so let's discuss this. A key stakeholder in the project requested an urgent feature from the team, and the team developed the feature considering the low effort work required in the completion. The product owner has pointed this as a mistake during sprint review meeting. How should the project manager prevent such problems in future iterations? Now, in some questions, they will talk about this, okay? That how do you prevent such problem, or how do you prevent this scenario? So you have to understand what the problem is. You have to understand what the scenario is. The problem here is that the moment stakeholder asked the team members to do some work, because it was a low effort work, team did it. That was wrong. The stakeholder should not go directly to the team, and team should not accept any work directly from the stakeholders. There's a product owner in between. Right? It should always come from that channel. Right? So the product owner pointed this as a mistake, and the project manager need to ensure that it does not happen in future. So how will they do that? Inform the stakeholder to no longer interfere with the team's work. Right? If you tell the stakeholder, okay, don't interfere with the team's work, just by telling them, the stakeholder might not agree to what you're saying. The stakeholder might not listen to you. They might say, okay, I'll do it. But then again, next time, they'll again talk to the team members. Right? So just informing might not help. We already know this, right? Just directing, just telling does not help. Okay. What helps is discussing with them, taking their point of view, discussing with team, taking their point of view, and finding a common ground. Okay. Finding a common solution which would help both. There's a reason why stakeholder is asking directly with their team member. Right? Probably the product owner is not listening to the stakeholder. There's a reason why team member did the work. Probably the product owner is not helping. So we don't know. And there could be some other things also at play. So what we need to do is we need to discuss with both the parties on why it happened, and then figure out a common ground, rather than informing one party that from tomorrow don't do this. Right? It's not a good choice. This is not how we do project management. Right? So not a good choice. B, meet with the stakeholder to build a common understanding on work prioritization. Right? So whenever they want a work, there should be some common understanding. Right? My understanding and the stakeholder understanding should meet. Looks like a good choice. Okay, I would talk to the stakeholders. I'll try to build a common understanding. Right. Then I go to C. Ask the stakeholder to issue change requests every time they want to add a feature. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm saying that there is a process. You should always issue a change request whenever you want to add a new feature. This would also be correct. Let's park this. Then we go to D. Change the process to ensure that the stakeholder can ask for changes bypassing the product owner. Not a good choice. Okay, why would you want to change the process if there's a problem? The problem is that stakeholder should not talk to the team directly. Right? What you're saying here is you are saying change the process to ensure the stakeholder can ask for changes, and you are now bypassing the product owner. So what should be the process? You are saying, okay, we'll bypass that. Not a good choice. So what are we left with? We are left with B and C. Okay. B is saying meet with the stakeholder to build a common understanding on work prioritization, which is that you discuss with product owner, let the product owner add it to the backlog, and then it will be prioritized. Based on that priority, the team will work. It's a good choice. You have another choice. Ask the stakeholder to issue change requests every time they want to add a feature, which is also a good thing. Change will come, then we'll approve the change request, and then we'll see whether it is to be added or not. Right? Which one would you choose and why? Yes, anyone? I see that a lot of people have chosen C. I could see some B also. Yes, why B or why C? I mean to say, how did you eliminate B or how did you eliminate C? What was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, Greetings, Amit. Okay, so I'd gone for B, trying to solve the problem from the angle of collaboration. If there is a problem and then to solve it, one of those considerations is to see how you could collaborate to have a common understanding. And I believe that if there's an understanding of the work prioritization, then that would take away some level of interference in executing the task.
Correct. So what you're saying is if you can build a common understanding, it will eliminate the need of having a process, which is to issue the change request and go through the change control process, or let the product owner go through the change request and see whether it is happening or not. You are saying that it is better that we can build a common understanding. Okay. Anyone, why did you eliminate B and you chose C over B? Just discussion. I mean, there's no right or wrong. Just to have a discussion.
Amit, just for the sake of matter, that process is being sticking to a process is more reliable and I would say a better way to handle the problem statement.
Correct, right? So processes help us, right? Processes, if we put, it helps us. But then how do you decide whether to choose process or to choose people? We go back to our mindset. We go back to agile values. We go back to agile principles, right? Because everything is based on that. Right? It is completely principles-based project management. We have come out of the processes part, right? Even when we talk about traditional approach, we don't focus a lot on processes. I've already said that yes, there are 49 processes, but not all the 49 processes are required to be followed in every project, first thing. Second thing, those processes are good for understanding. They will not ask you exactly on the processes name and inputs and tools and techniques, because we are moving from processes or the structured way to principle-based project management. That the mindset should be clear, the value should be clear, the principle should be clear, and we should figure out how to work. Right? And especially if you look at agile project, okay, this is where you apply the values that you learn from Agile Manifesto. Individual and interactions over processes and tools. So if I'm given two options and both are helping me, I would pick or prefer individual and interactions over processes and tools. Right? Because processes means that we are reliant on that process. Somebody might figure out a way around. But if you can work with the team and have a common understanding, if you can make the stakeholder believe that yes, prioritization is important, discussing with product owner is important, then the chances are more that they would follow it. Okay, even if you ask them to submit the change request regularly, chances are that they might not follow it. Okay, so setting a process is no guarantee that people would follow it. So whenever you are stuck between two choices, where one is about process and other is about individual interactions, we would prefer individual interactions if it answering the question. Okay, now there could be some other discussions also, but if it is not answering the question, it is a wrong thing. But if both the options are answering the question, and we have to decide whether what should we pick, we should pick individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Okay, chances will be more that people would follow. Just think about it. If you have a discussion with stakeholder, understand the prioritization. If you could convince them that this is the way in which we will work, okay, tell me what are your concerns. If you listen to their concerns, if you understand their point of view, and then come to a common ground, it is much better, and there are more chances that both of you would follow that part. Rather than saying that from tomorrow there is a process, if you don't submit a change request, we will not go ahead. Okay, it is making it very strict. People will find a workaround. That is one part. Second, just asking a stakeholder to follow the process does not guarantee that they will follow the process. Does not even improve the chances that they will follow the process. Okay, we all have worked with business people. We have all have worked with stakeholders. We all have worked with customers. And there are so many processes, so many workflows that we follow. Is it followed by everybody? No. Do we not have processes in place? We have. Right? But what works best? The interactions. If you can build good relationship, if you can convince them, if you can bring to common ground, if you can have a shared understanding, it is much better than adding a process to the place. Right? That's why B is better than C. Is it clear, everyone? Are you all convinced? Are we both on common ground?
Yes,
Just quick confirmation, please. If you have any doubt, please ask. Okay, it is not that Amit is saying, hence it must be right. Okay, there's no guarantee for that. Okay? What is important is what we take away from. Okay, and the takeaway is that people individual interactions is better than processes and tools. We know that we follow Agile, we have seen it in value. That's why we would prefer discussing and interacting and building a common ground over trying to get them to follow a process. Right? So this brings us to the end of our today's discussion. How was it? How was the session, everyone?
Very good.
Helpful?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So what we will also do is I will be connecting with all of you. Okay. Now you have taken the effort, taken the pain to join this session, which means you are serious about your preparation and you are serious about taking the exam soon. Okay. So just a quick request. Can you put in the chat box what are the dates you are looking at? Maybe not exact date, but what is the date you are looking at for the exam, so that I can connect with you during the week and we will sit and we'll prepare a plan. In the chat box, mention the date that you are looking for the exam. It could be like end of the Feb, end of March, second week, third week. You can just mention anything, but we'll connect and discuss. Everyone, please mention so that I can set up a call with you and discuss what are your plans, what have you done till now, what else do you need to do. Okay, so it would I could have that one-to-one coaching call to suggest you and ensure that you meet your target.